Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Good Love Podcast, a Good Love project production with your friendly neighborhood sex geek and good lover, Katrina Boots Rainsong. Here at the GLP, we strive for informed, enthusiastic consent, so this is your content warning. The Good Love Podcast is a sex and relationship education podcast directed to adult listeners. We offer playful, powerful, and positive education on sexuality, pleasure, kink, sexual health and wellness, and a slew of other grown and sexy topics. If you find any of these topics objectionable, you're welcome to skip an episode or even the whole show. If you're under 18, we recommend heading over to scarletine.com for all youth-focused sex ed needs. Now, if you're an enthusiastic yes, get comfy and enjoy the show. Hey, good lovers. I am sitting here with one of my favorite teachers today. I'm terrible at introducing my guests, so I like to let them introduce themselves. Miss Chris, please tell my good lovers all about you.
Hi, I'm Miss Chris, and I'm a professional disciplinarian. I actually wear quite a few different hats. I run a kinky bed and breakfast. I make toys. But mostly, I spank people. Spanking is a huge passion for me. And I have been teaching about spanking for probably close to 15 years. And I've been doing conferences and kink-friendly venues for about the same amount of time. I've actually presented in front of some vanilla audiences as well. DarkCon came through here. I presented for Mensa and ASECT, the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Therapists, and Counselors.
Awesome.
So, yeah, very happy to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maureen. Your space is amazing.
Thank you.
It's incredibly wholesome, and then oh wait
There's a kinky twist.
Yeah, but it's just, which is kind of spanking, and I guess we call it domestic discipline.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
Is kind of what it is wholesome,
very much so,
with some spice,
right? I like to call the spanking community butterscotch, not quite vanilla, just shy of it. We're not certainly at the end of the spectrum where there is edge play or knives or flesh hooks or anything like that. Although our scenes can get pretty intense, pretty raw, if you're on the corporal punishment side of things, we tend not to focus too much on real heavy intensity. We like to incorporate a little bit of fun, lighthearted punishment into it.
Punishment.
Yeah.
I love that word. There's actually a card game out now called Punishment.
Ooh.
I got to test and review it, and it's this really cute, basically the idea of the card game is to give you a chance to explore fantasies with your partner, and while also exploring and practicing consent and finding what your boundaries are.
Right,
so it's it's almost as if someone took the yes, no, maybe list, but made it into a game.
Oh, fun.
And it's called Punishment.
Yeah,
cute.
That sounds like fun. I got to look that up.
So I'm really, part of me is start at the beginning, but I'm also very curious about Mensa reaching out to you and what was that like? What was the question, or was it kind of a panel, or is it just you?
So there was, they had a regional gathering of Mensa. I think it was the Southwest, the entire Southwest was here in Phoenix quite a few years ago. And my submissive, now wife, and I were asked by a master-slave couple to represent the spanking community at Mensa. They were on the master-slave side of things. They did a lot of cathartic floggings, for instance, and they wanted a different perspective. They also wanted a little bit of a younger couple to give their take on the lifestyle in kink in general. And the way that it was scheduled was they had an extended weekend of all activities and parties and socials, gatherings, games, all these things that Mensa qualified people could do to socialize and get with other Mensa people. They had an adult tract at night. Mm-hmm. And these were all of the classes or the presentations that were a little more adult-friendly content. I believe they had beer making. They had, different things, for adults. And one of them was BDSM. You'd be surprised at how many super intelligent people come to the BDSM world. Mm-hmm. And that class that we presented was probably one of the more popular classes of the adult track.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So it was really fascinating. Yeah. And I was entertained to learn that even Mensa people can get trashed off their asses and stumble into a classroom halfway through and make fools of themselves. I learned that they're not all conservative and staid and
mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Because when you think of Mensa, you very much think like very like proper buttoned up.
Yes.
The leather.
Almost executive.
Yes. Yeah. The like leather patches on the tweed coat is like the closest to leather.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although a tweed coat with leather patches can be hot in the right situation.
I think that's very hot in the right situation.
Yeah. So that, I think that leads well into asking, I know that, it's on your website, mm-hmm. Just fascinating. I know that you employ a lot of different roles, I guess it would be.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So, can you speak to that?
Sure.
Like different roles?
So as a professional spanker, role play is one of the skills that I rely on heaviest. And I would say these days, good 70 to 75% of my clientele wants fantasy reenactment, which means role play. Mm-hmm. Very often I am playing mommy, I'm playing auntie, I'm playing school teacher, I'm playing boss, I'm playing nurse, I'm playing police officer. All these sort of authority figures in our day-to-day life, a lot of people fetishize. Mm-hmm. So having a fantasy of being pulled over for speeding by a police officer, and instead of getting a ticket, you get 6 swats across your backside with a big old paddle, mm-hmm. And then left to go on your merry way. That is a very, very popular fantasy for a lot of people. And I really enjoy bringing those to life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I noticed the granny outfit over there, and that was one that never occurred to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm an age player, mm-hmm. And I teach about age play. And when people think about age play, they think about younger characters.
Mm-hmm. About aging down.
Or age regression. Yeah. But there's a whole nother world, opposite side of the slash, where you can age progress. So, I'm 50-something right now. And so when I want to take on a grandmotherly role, I will be 70-something. And I will put my hair in curlers, or I will wear that robe and that bath cap. I might spank with a big fuzzy slipper. Or I tease and cajole as a grandmother might.
Right.
She spoils. Grandmothers spoil a little bit more. But there's certainly a call for the disciplinarian granny as well. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever play with your voice when you're in roles, or is it mostly how you present yourself?
I do play with voice. I play with accent sometimes.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. I'm not real great with them anymore. As a kid, I picked up accents like crazy. But I can affect a couple of pretty good ones. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. And it really helps the authenticity. If you've got something like an accent, something like attire that is visually representative of what you're dealing with. So when I teach about role play classes, I like to say you got to tickle your senses, all of your senses. So tickle your vision by dressing up in that floral robe and that bath cap over there. Tickle your smell by perhaps Granny is sick and tired of you complaining that you're sick and wants to take your temperature, and she gets the Vicks Vapor Rub out. Smelling the Vicks Vapor Rub takes me back right off the bat to my childhood and when I was sick. Textures, different touch, different tastes will elicit different feelings, different memories, and different emotions. And so I try and tap into all those.
That's awesome.
Through your senses.
But it's a very holistic experience.
It is, very much. Very much, yeah.
Cool. Now, do you work with anyone, individuals and partnerships, a variety of genders?
Yes, absolutely. I'm completely inclusive. I've got many trans clients, many gay clients. I've got older clients. I've got larger clients. I see just about everybody. Yeah.
When you work with people who are in partnership, say a couple, what does that kind of look like?
Sometimes a wife will want to see her husband punished for something that he did. In which case, we'll have either a witness session where the couple come over here and she witnesses me punishing the husband. Sometimes the wife wants to be involved and also punish the husband, in which case it turns into a co-topping session. Sometimes the couple are both submissive or both bottoms and they want to be punished together.
Oh, wow.
I've had small groups come in particular, academic role plays, like school role plays.
Oh, that's so cool.
I can do a boarding school role play here. I can have 3 or 4 students over and do a group role play.
That's so cool. And so with it being boarding school, and I know you said you also have a kinky B&B, so does that scene, those kind of scenes can be multi-day?
Absolutely.
Even?
Multi-day.
Wow.
And or completely immersive.
Wow.
The role play starts when you walk in the door and doesn't end until you walk out that door again. And you're going to stay in role, and I'm going to stay in role for the entire time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds exhausting, but also incredibly fun and fulfilling.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. I have the capability to do middle of the night spankings. I have got an option on my website that you can opt for quote unquote nighttime surveillance. And so Auntie could peek in on you at night and potentially bust you doing something you shouldn't be doing at night when you're under Auntie's roof. And Auntie can talk through the speaker from remote, and she can see what you're doing.
Oh, wow.
And that's always a fun addition if people want to do anything at night. That's more often than not, I tire them out during the day that they don't want to do anything at night. But it's an option, Some people remember that.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
What's the longest multi-day?
I once did a 6-day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now that I have to admit that wasn't completely immersive, not from the start to the end. We did take a few breaks in between, but for the most part it was.
I imagine that
it was in role, yeah.
A lot of preparation.
A lot of preparation. Yeah. Because there's a lot of time to kill while you're with them, but there's also a lot of time to kill outside of the time that you're actually with a person. In which case I am assigning lines, or you're doing corner time, or you're doing chores back here, or, I've got you dressed up back here, and maybe I've got you tied up back here, maybe that type of thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Would you say, you refer to yourself as a professional spanker, a professional disciplinarian? Mm-hmm. Would you say, is there a specific difference between a disciplinarian versus dominatrix, which is what most people think of?
Sure. They're both professional dominants, but there's a huge difference between a disciplinarian and a dominatrix. Dominatrixes tend to use control, embarrassment, and humiliation to lower their subject, to create that power differential. Whereas a domestic disciplinarian, or in my case, Dominurtrix, I like to turn that into a Dominurtrix. So I'm using bettering skills to raise you up to my level. Even though I'm still a little bit above you, I always have to be above you in the power differential. But I raise you up. I'm making you a better person. I'm correcting you to make you a better person.
It's that kind of this is for your own good.
This is for your own good.
Take your medicine.
Exactly. You're not going to like this, but it's for your own good. Yeah.
That's cool. And Dominurtrix, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Words. So, let's step back a little bit and, how did you get here?
Fun story. So I found the lifestyle back in 2006. I came out as a bottom. I was playing around with submission. I was playing around with bottoming. I was playing around with being a masochist. Because that's really mostly how I defined back then.
And would you say that most Spankos are masochists?
No,
or
I would say
more
no.
About the mental than the actual
It's
physical?
much more about the mental for Spankos. I say spanking is 75% up here in your mind and 25% on the butt.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, I came out and I spent the first year of my lifestyle in the lifestyle just bottoming and going to every class that I could, going to every party I could, meeting every single person I could. I was a big demo bunny. I would volunteer to demo for anybody who came through. And I got a chance to demo bottom for some of the best. I mean, some really great people. And it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about what I wanted and what spoke to me in the lifestyle. After about a year, I wound up meeting a woman who made the assumption that I was dominant. And she was a professional dominatrix. And she wound up inviting me one day to come down to her studio and to co-top this gentleman in from out of town. I had never topped before. And I didn't tell her that I wasn't a top.
We love a baptism by fire.
Because my idea was I was just going to watch her and I was just going to do whatever she did. I was very good at that. I was very good at mirroring people. And I could learn really quickly by just watching and doing. So I said yes. The day came, we met down at the studio, and she gives me a little bit more information about this client, and she says, "Oh, don't worry about it. He's just a Spanko." And I'm trying to figure out what just a Spanko means in lifestyle speak, because I had no idea that professional dominants and dominatrixes tend to look not as well on spanking. They look at it as very entry level. They look at it as a gateway kink. They look at it as maybe a little bit of foreplay for the meat of the session, which usually is something a little bit more sexual. And that just didn't work for me at the time. And I had no idea that there was this difference in communities. I had spent all of my time in the BDSM community. I didn't know there was a totally separate Spanko community at this time. So I kind of shrugged and said, okay, I took that little bit of information and kind of filed it away. And she said to me, oh, by the way, I'm not feeling very good today, but I can't cancel the session. So I'm going to sit in the corner and I'm going to armchair quarterback this session from the corner.
Mm.
You're going to do everything. And when she said that to me, my brain about popped out of my head, because there goes, now I'm going to be busted, because there goes my opportunity to mirror her and to just do what she was doing. Mm-hmm. Now I had to figure out what to do all by myself. This is the first time I'm topping. I wasn't spanked growing up. I maybe had seen a spanking scene or two at the dungeon, Apex, but nothing really of note. So he comes to the door, very tall. He's 6'6". I'm standing about 6'5" in platform heels.
Wow.
Because I'm all leathered out. I'm leathered and latexed out. Because, again, I don't know the difference between the spanking community and what they wear and the BDSM community and what they wear. So I was all dominatrixed out. And I was standing about 6'5", and we were looking eye to eye. And turns out he was a former football player, about 6'6", about 300 so pounds. And the only piece of furniture that this lady had in her studio was a metal folding chair.
Oh, wow.
A metal folding chair.
I'm already visualizing.
I'm trying to do math in my head. This guy's got to be 300 pounds. He's very large. I am running about 220 at that time. So I was a lot bigger than I am now. And I'm thinking, oh, this thing has to hold 500 pounds, 525 pounds. Ooh, this is going to be ugly if this goes down while he's on top of my lap. Mm-hmm. But forge ahead. So I yanked his pants down to his ankles. I yanked his underwear down. I don't know anything about warm-ups. I don't know anything about safe words or the stoplight system. I don't know. I just know that a spanking needs to hurt. And a spanking is supposed to deter bad behavior. Mm-hmm. So I proceed to spank him on the bear with my hand, because she didn't have any implements other than a cane, and I was not comfortable using a cane. Mm-hmm. So I used my hand for the entire hour, and I proceeded to spank him for as long and hard and fast as I could for that hour.
Wow.
The hour came up. He thanked me. He left. The dominatrix was in the corner, and she's got her arms folded across her chest. And I'm thinking, oh shit, what did I do wrong? I must have done something wrong. She's not happy. And she looks at me, and we're cleaning up, and she looks at me, and she's just like, why didn't you tell me you could do that? Hmm. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm not as much in trouble as I thought. I said, well, you didn't ask. Trying to be a smart ass.
Right.
But we part ways, and I get a phone call from her the next morning. Before text messaging, she phone called me, and she's pissed. She's really pissed. She's yelling on the phone to me. And I said, what's going on? What's going on? She said, I heard from the client. And I said, oh, here it comes. Here's the other shoe dropping. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what did he say? And she says, he wants your phone number.
Oh, that's...
And once again, I'm completely confused because I don't know what, I don't understand client loyalty. Mm-hmm. She was the one who it was her business.
Mm-hmm.
I was just doing her a favor coming along, and he wanted to session with me again.
Mm.
And so I told her, I said, well, you want to give him my number, you can. She says, well, I'll never see him again if I give him your number. And I'm thinking, well, you didn't actually spank him yesterday, so he probably doesn't actually maybe even want to see you. Maybe he just wants to see me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was exactly the case. I did. I reached back out to him, and he wound up becoming my very first client. And he was from the Dallas area, and I was traveling regularly to Houston. And he would drive the 5 hours to come see me. And we would go to dinner, and then we'd go back to my hotel room, and we would play.
Just imagining him driving 5 hours with a sorely spanked bottom.
Absolutely. And it was a turnaround for him because he had to work the next day too.
Oof.
Right.
Wow.
So he was desperate. He said, I can't get this kind of a spanking just from anybody. So he really encouraged me to step out, and start to do this for a living. And sure enough, I haven't looked back since.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. I never set out to be a lifestyler, a professional lifestyler. Mm-hmm. But that's what I turned into.
That's so very cool. Yeah. Were your hands just exhausted after that first?
After that first session, I will be honest with you, my inner palm was black and blue.
Oof, yeah.
I just bruised the heck out of my palm, and my forearm, for reaching across him, I was catching my forearm there. I had a bunch of broken capillaries all at my forearm the next morning.
Oh, wow.
And I was sore. Yeah. I was very sore.
Yeah. I'm sure you, obviously, I've, sat through some of your classes, you talk about, good body mechanics.
Yes.
So, you've really learned good body mechanics.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because, I know that was something that had always kind of bothered me when I've done spankings, is the stinging of my own hand.
Sure, absolutely. It's supposed to hurt them more than us.
Right? I do like to joke sometimes, I'm going to spank you so hard it makes my hand hurt, and then I'm going to spank you again for making my hand hurt.
There you go. I
don't really want my hands to hurt.
Yeah. That's when most people just pick up an implement.
Yeah.
Practice builds stamina. Mm-hmm. So if you can find someone to practice on, and if you can't find someone to practice on, I recommend getting a ham, and practicing on a ham, as long as you're not vegetarian or vegan.
Right.
Then I don't know, maybe tofu ham. I'm not sure. But ham,
leather pillow or something.
Ham has the most representative of flesh. Sure. Is pig flesh.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is most close to human buttocks. As strange as it may sound.
No, that makes sense. We also, it's just how we, we use pigs in our biology class.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So if we're not doing frogs.
Right.
Yeah, because they are really
exactly.
similar.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. The term Spanko, does that mean is that an umbrella for everyone in the spanking community, or is that only bottoms and tops and Spankos?
No, Spankos is pretty much across the board.
Okay.
It's gender independent. It's orientation independent. It's / independent. A top as well as a bottom can identify as a Spanko. Yeah.
Well, so Spanko is just spanking enthusiast.
Spanking enthusiast. Yeah, spanking fetishist.
Spanking fetishist.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
This podcast is brought to you by Wicked Sib Essentials. Wicked Sib Essentials is non-binary fashion, pride wear, self-care, and ritual products for LGBTQ plus witches and pagans. Find them on Etsy and Instagram at Wicked Sib Essentials. Wicked Sib Essentials. Live magically.
So I run a spanking group in town called Spank University, and we try and, whenever possible, whenever the venue allows, to incorporate spanking and education in one group. Unfortunately, when we have house parties, which we do, the venue doesn't lend itself to having a class before the party. But this December 9th, I'm going to be having a party here at the Ironwood Terrace. This is what I call my play space here.
I love it.
And if you're in the Phoenix metro area, if you're a Spanko, if you're Spank curious, let me know. Hit me up through FetLife. My profile there is Miss Chris, all one word, MISSCHRIS. And I've got an event built on Fet that I'm starting to flesh out, because it's starting to get closer to the date. So that's that. And then I'm not ready to fully announce details yet, but in January I'm going to be partnering with Apex to have a Spanko intensive. So a whole weekend for spanking, domestic discipline, and corporal punishment. We're hoping to do Spanko night at the dungeon on Saturday night, Spanko social on Friday night, 2 days worth of classes, vendors.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm going to be signing up for that.
All around the spanking scene and the spanking community. And I'm hoping to pull in some really, really cool Spanko presenters.
Oh, that's so awesome. I will definitely be. I know I'll be signing up for that. I know I'm excited for your party as well, which actually leads to a question. It was a question posed by my husband, actually, because I was like, babe, I want to go. Do you want to come with me? And I feel like he's kind of butterscotch.
Okay,
you know? He goes to Apex things with me. We have our own kind of dynamic. But he's very much kind of on the fringe.
Yeah,
we actually had a conversation recently where he was realizing how much he enjoys spanking and spanking me, and how it helps me with my anxiety a lot.
Yes, it does.
Really
it's tremendous for anxiety and depression.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm hoping that he'll come with me, and he was like, well, what's going to happen?
Okay.
What happens at a spanking party? I'm like, I don't know, spanking?
Yeah, really.
I've been to all kinds of fetish events, but I haven't been to a spanking
party. It's a play party that centers around spanking and spanking-related activities. And Spankos tend to prefer domestic locations. Some Spankos like hotels for that purpose. But my spanking parties are held usually at members' homes. This coming up, it's going to be here. And basically, it's just a play party. Bunch of Spankos show up. We usually bring people bring a ton of food. There's beverages flowing, and there's rooms and furniture available, and people break off, usually, an hour after they get there, and start playing.
Awesome.
And they play up until I kick them out.
Awesome. So quite similar to what you would expect for a play party.
Exactly. It's just spanking-centric.
Spanking-centric.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know you talked about this a bit in your class, so I'd love to have you speak to it here. With domestic discipline and domestic dynamics, the first one that comes to my mind, of course, is the 1950s household. But what else would fall under that as far as dynamic-wise? Oh,
wow. Going back to governess, Victorian governess is also a good one. Governess is a female authority figure in charge of usually kids, and in charge of their education, and they're in charge of their correction and their manners. And so as a governess, it's your job to teach and correct your ward. And so I really love that particular, because she's got just enough authority to be able to correct you, but not as much authority as the parents.
Right.
You know, the lady and master of the house.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Gosh, are you talking like historic role plays? Or just domestic role plays in general?
I guess domestic role plays in general, particularly...
husband and wife is a very, very popular one. Or boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or girlfriend, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anything of the home, domestic.
Okay.
Boarding school experiences also kind of qualify as domestic discipline because the student is living on site.
Right. There's that, what is that Latin term? In loco parentis?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. So the school has the right, again, to teach and to correct.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. But yes, I would love to hear you speak on historical as well.
Sure. Those are the ones that I usually do. I do 1920s as well. I've got a 1920s can dancer outfit that I enjoy doing, pulling people up from the audience as I'm doing a burlesque dance or something like that, flapper.
Oh, that's so fun. I love
type of
that.
Thing. So that's fun.
That's awesome. I've never thought of like a 1920s thing. I think a lot of times we always see stuff around like that 40s, 50s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because a lot of times a lot of those fetish images are coming from that like Irving Klaw, Betty Page,
absolutely,
like that whole
the history of BDSM and imagery within BDSM. Mm-hmm. You're going to harken back to. That's why vintage lingerie and garters and suspenders, belts and
I love
bullet bras
girdle.
And panty girdles and all that good stuff. That's why those are so popular, is because people grew up, looking at those images, those Irving Klaw images.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Like, what would you say are like the top 3 misconceptions about spanking or Spankos that you would love to see be dispelled?
Right. The first one is that spanking is entry level or a gateway kink. Mm-hmm. Spanking is its own scene, all unto its own, just like the leather community is its own scene, just like the master-slave community is its own scene, just like the rope community has their own scene. The spanking community has our own scene. And we have different attire, we have different language, we have different scene elements. And it is a separate community. So it's a separate, and it goes just as deep as those other communities do. Mm. We've got our own history. We've got our own subculture, basically. Our whole subculture based on spanking.
Totally.
So a lot of people think, spanking's boring. It's just entry level. Nobody sticks with spanking. When they find the lifestyle, they move on. They evolve into bigger and better fetishes. Mm. More extreme fetishes, more visually stimulating fetishes. And that's not the case at all. A lot of Spankos are Spankos whenever they start their journey to their end of their journey. They usually really fetishize spanking. Right. So that's a big misconception. Another one, and this is in the forefront of my mind because I'm just putting together a new presentation on bratting.
Okay. Yeah, bratting is kind of like, especially because of like TikTok, I feel is like on people's lips a lot more these days.
Yeah. Well, the whole consent issue. Mm-hmm. So I think most of us all agree that a scene should be negotiated before it starts, and we need to be talking about consent in that conversation. But yet, it seems to be perfectly acceptable for someone who identifies as a brat to run up to XYZ fill-in-the-blank Spanko top and start bratting them before they've gotten consent. Mm-hmm. Not all Spanko tops are brat tamers. And that's another misconception, is that, you're a Spanko, you must love brats. Not necessarily. I like a respectful brat. Mm-hmm. I like a brat who asks me whether I am in a position to be a brat tamer at that moment before they start bratting me. So that's something that really kind of sticks in my craw right now, is getting consent before you start the scene, even if starting the scene is just verbal. I think in every other fetish, everybody would agree to negotiate consent first before you start playing. It seems like a no-brainer when I say it, but yet, no matter where I go, people assume that I'm ready to deal with a brat, and I'm not.
Yeah, and just going up and bratting at someone. I mean, okay, you identify as a brat. I identify as a dom, and I go around. If I was to go around doming on people, like
before getting their consent,
I would get called out as
exactly. You'd get kicked out of the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And yet, in the spanking community, it's perfectly normal. I mean, I understand that I am a quote unquote Spanko personality. People have seen me on video. They've seen me teach and present. They know a lot more about me than I do about them.
Right. Those parasocial.
And so some people feel that they know me well enough to just come up to me and start bratting me. When in truth, I have no idea who you are. I don't know if you're a brat. I don't know if you're being disrespectful on purpose. I just don't know. Once again, you didn't get my consent before starting the scene. I've had bottoms run up to me and slap me, I know, on my tushy to brat me so that I will spank them.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. You don't get to touch me without consent. You don't get to hit me without consent. And just because you're a brat doesn't mean I'm going to let you get away with that behavior. And if you think I'm going to spank you for that, you are sadly mistaken. I'm going to give you a very good talking to, and then I'm going to proceed to ignore you for the rest of the day.
Totally.
Because you want a spanking. I'm not going to reward you for that kind of behavior by giving you what you want. I'm going to give you my idea of what real punishment is. And that's ignoring you for doing something so egregious as to run up and hit me before you've even talked to me.
Yeah, that's... Wow. I remember, like, I know it probably sounds strange for me to say back in the day, but, like, I am older than I look, I promise. We called them Sams.
Yeah.
And now there's, like, seems to be... like this line between, like, and I personally don't understand what the line between Brett and Sam is.
I've done a lot of talking to people about this, and there is a lot of overlap between a smartass masochist and a brat. However, they are different things. Smartass masochists are masochists. A lot of brats do not identify as a masochist. So it's about the giving and receiving of pain. And a smart-ass masochist is going to poke you and prod in order to get pain. That's the arrangement, okay? With a brat, they are bratting for multiple reasons. They're bratting for attention. They're bratting to get a spanking. They're bratting just because they can. And there's different techniques to deal with brats than to deal with smart-ass masochists. It also seems to be very scene dependent. So a smart-ass masochist will get what they want, okay, a good beating or masochistic pain, and then they'll stop. Brats never stop.
Because that's their whole identity.
Is they're a brat. So they're always bratting. There's never an off switch with brats. Whereas there seems to be an off switch with Sams. Once they get what they're looking for, they turn off until they are looking for more pain. Right. Then they'll be smart ass to another sadist, hopefully.
Right. Okay.
who can appreciate a smart-ass masochist, because not all sadists can.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's disrespectful, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The master-slave community, for instance, the leather community, looks at bratting as being very disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame them at all. These are very protocol-heavy communities.
Yeah.
And in the Spanko community, it tends to be a free-for-all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is a lot of dom-sub dynamic within that. And within that, like, kind of more domestic sphere, I don't know, do you think that, is there some kind of correlation between Spankos and bratting, or it's just...
Yeah, I would say that the term brat belongs to the Spanko community.
Mm-hmm.
The term Sam belongs to the BDSM community. BDSMers use the term brat because it's an identity,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Cool. And then one more. What's one other, like, big misconception?
One other misconception. And I know that dominatrixes get this as well, but the pay for play conundrum. It seems like professional spankers are not as embraced for being as experienced and as passionate about their kink as amateurs, because we make money from it. In other words, a lot of lifestylers question professionals' ethics,
right,
and why they're engaging in BDSM. Are they only doing it for the money, or are they doing it because they're lifestyle professionals like myself? If I was whether I was a professional or not, I'd still be doing this. I just happen to do it for a living because I can. Yeah. And I've grown my business. But it's not easy. I don't play all day. There's a lot of admin stuff.
No one ever thinks, well, I just think no one that's outside of
the professional
realm is nearly aware of the amount of administrative drudgery that is involved.
Overhead.
Yeah, in all forms of sex work, just like, yeah. Especially if you're in an independent situation rather than like working out of a house or a dungeon or what have you.
Right. Yep. So those would be my theory.
Yeah. I've come across that because I also do some pro-doming as well as like content stuff. And so some people that are like confused, and I'm just, well, if you love it, if your lifestyle, why are you asking for money? I was like, you wouldn't ask that of a ballet dancer,
right? Or a doctor.
I used to do like a circus performance because I love spinning fire. I'm supposed to
do it for free.
Like that's not
how the world works.
Yeah, no. Like I also don't like that we live in a capitalist hellscape, but we do. So yeah, that's that weird, well, I want you to like me for me thing. And it's like, if you want
then find another amateur. Then you go to FetLife or places like it, and you look and you look and you trial and error and you look and you look and you get rejected about 50 bazillion times. And then you come back, you realize, hey, for what you're offering me, I can get almost everything that I need without having to get rejected over and over and over again millions of times.
Yeah, Right.
or wind up with wackos.
Yeah. All the emotional labor.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Totally.
yeah.
You had mentioned earlier that you were not spanked growing up.
No.
And neither was I. And I actually was like very proud to be raised by non-spanking parents. Because they were definitely from generation of the go out and get me a Switch generation. You know?
Yep.
My dad tells a story about like going out and bringing his dad like a twig just to mess with him.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, But I know there's a lot of assumption around kinky BDSM in general, but I imagine especially around domestic role plays and spanking that, it's something in their childhood. They were like, they were spanked and somehow it got twisted, or they weren't spanked and so now they crave it, or da-da-da. Thoughts around...
The truth is the matter, there are no patterns like that in psychology. There are no patterns like that. The truth of the matter is, we don't know where it comes from, but chances are it comes from the same place that all of our characteristics when we're born come from. In other words, genetically, we are made up of all of these things that make us who we are. We are born this way, okay? But there does require some kind of an activator. So we're born with maybe a predisposition to be anally erotic. Okay, we're born with a predisposition. But until we actually experience that, we don't really know whether we have it or not, right? Something usually in our childhood activates or brings our attention to this thing that we have this interest in. It's the age-old question, nature versus nurture. And I heard a saying a couple years back, and I use it liberally. It says, nature loads the gun and nurture pulls the trigger.
Wow.
So it's a combination. You need both. It's a perfect storm of genetics and upbringing creating us the way that we are.
Right. Yeah.
Fundamentally, I do think there is a genetic predisposition for kinksters to be kinky. Just like we're born with green eyes or blue eyes, just like we're born gay or straight or on the spectrum or anything like that. It's genetic first and foremost.
Yeah. I once heard,
but it doesn't necessarily present itself every time.
Right. I once heard someone say, and they were talking about polyamory, but I feel like it fits for kink as well, is that like some are by birth, like some are kinky, polyamorous by birth, and some are by experience. I definitely feel like I personally am like by birth. It's like a thing that's just like
I know that it was by birth for me, because at a very young age, way younger than my sexuality exhibited itself, way earlier than my personality presented, way earlier than I was aware of sexual orientation or gender or anything like that, I was having fantasies, kinky fantasies. I remember back in 3rd grade having kinky fantasies.
Totally.
So that tells me that, now I grew up in the New York Catholic school system as well. So correction and rules were very, very prominent. And so I think I was born with a predisposition towards kinky activities. And then my upbringing in the Catholic Church allowed me to experience what it was. And then it indelibly linked.
Right. Totally.
You know, I've got a heavy, heavy Catholic fetish. Heavy Catholic fetish.
I was about to ask if you did like nun or priest role play or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I do both.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
I've got a monk as well.
Oh, well, cool. With the cowl and
Yep.
the knife.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love religious role plays.
That's so cool.
We all have that scene in our head that we just really want to play out.
Right. And then there's the scenes in your head sometimes that remain in your head.
Have to remain in your head.
Like, if for no reason, then like physics.
Right.
It's like, that's not physically possible.
There's not physically possible, or if that happened in real life, I'd be dead. Right. So, yeah, we don't want to break our toys like that.
No. Unfortunately, there aren't any dragons anymore, so that fantasy's out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing and talking with me and allowing me to your space.
No problem.
So good. And one final question, because I'm a huge movie nerd. That's like a whole separate series that I'm working on the YouTube channel, is like reviewing. It's basically like Kinkster reacts to kinky movies.
Okay.
Is there a particular film that you would consider to be like a Spanko film, or that has like that good elements of spanking?
Gosh, the only movie scenes that I've ever seen of spanking were not very realistic. There's a few in movies. Back in the day, it was very, very popular to do movie spankings. Back in the True Grit era, or the Kiss Me Kate, or the
Kiss Me Kate was what I immediately thought of.
Yeah.
Or even the I Love Lucy, wasn't there?
I Love Lucy's were very big. I mean, spanking, it was a part of every household, and so so it was made fun of a lot back then. I wouldn't say anything in particular stands out as being a very particularly good spanking scene. Most of them are just way too short.
Right.
to be accurate in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And the aim is usually bad. Yeah. Maybe I will do an episode where I just do like almost like a clip show of just like different clips.
Yeah.
And talk about that. That would be cool.
That would be fun.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. This has been great.
You had mentioned your party that's coming up, but any other pluggables that you want to plug? How can my listeners find you?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I mentioned FetLife. I'm under FetLife as Miss Chris. On Twitter, I'm very active on Twitter, probably the most active on Twitter as far as social media is concerned. And I'm under Twitter as Dominurtrix. My website is misschris.com with an extra S. So it's MISSSCHRIS.com. I say the extra S is for spanking. But the truth of the matter is the domain name was already taken, misschris.com. So
dang.
But I don't need to tell people that.
Awesome. Well, and of course, as always, good lovers, those things will be put in the show notes and the description, or in the description box if you're listening to this on YouTube. Final thoughts, like anything you wanted to leave my good lovers with?
Whether you're a Spanko or not, spanking is a whole lot of fun. So if you haven't tried it on either side of the slash, I encourage you to do that. And if you need help taking that first step, then contact me through my website, and I'll help you get started.
Awesome. For all of you good lovers out there, you'll be able to find all of this information. And until next time, keep on good loving.